Moscow's airports just went dark for the fourth night in a row. Not because of weather, not because of technical failures, but because Ukrainian drones are turning Russia's capital into a no-fly zone. And here's the kicker. This is all happening while both sides are supposedly talking about peace. Last night alone, Russian authorities claim they shot down 98 Ukrainian drones. That's not a typo. Nearly 100 drones swarming toward Moscow, forcing Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, Vnukovo, and Zhukovsky, every major airport serving the Russian capital, to slam their doors shut. We're talking about 134 flights diverted, over 140 canceled, and thousands of passengers sleeping on airport floors. But the real story isn't just about flight delays. In Zelenodrod, a Moscow suburb about 20 miles from the city center, residents woke up to explosions that shook their walls and shattered windows. Security footage shows the moment drone debris slammed into apartment buildings, setting cars ablaze in residential courtyards. One local described explosions so powerful that their entire house trembled. This marks the most intense drone assault on Moscow since early May, and the timing? It couldn't be more interesting. Because while these drones are lighting up Moscow's night sky, President Trump just handed Putin a 50-day ultimatum: make a peace deal by September or face what Trump calls very severe economic sanctions, including 100% tariffs on any country doing business with Russia. Here's where it gets wild. Trump's been trying to broker this peace deal, claiming he's had 4 separate conversations with Putin where he thought they'd reached an agreement. But every time he hangs up thinking progress was made, missiles start flying. In Trump's own words, "I always hang up saying, well, that was a nice phone call," and then missiles are launched into Kiev or some other city. Now Trump's done playing nice. He's not just threatening sanctions, he's already shipping Patriot missile systems to Ukraine through NATO, with plans for up to 17 air defense batteries. That's nearly triple what Ukraine has now. Russia's reaction? Former President Dmitry Medvedev basically shrugged it off, calling it theatrical and saying Russia didn't care. But here's what Russia should care about. Their airports have been shut down 10 times in just 24 hours, according to Russia's own tour operators. The financial hit is staggering. We're looking at tens of billions of rubles in losses from flight disruptions. Over 60,000 passengers have been impacted in Moscow alone, and this is peak tourist season. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are barely hiding their satisfaction. Andrei Kovalenko, head of Ukraine's Counter-Disinformation Center, called it straight. The most effective story is the paralysis of Russia's air traffic. Think about what's happening here. Ukraine, a country that's been under brutal assault for years, has figured out how to reach deep into Russian territory and create chaos without firing a single traditional missile. They're using drones, relatively cheap, hard to detect, and apparently very effective at making life difficult for ordinary Russians who just want to catch their flights. The psychological impact can't be overstated. For most of this war, Russians living in Moscow have been insulated from the conflict. Sure, they've dealt with sanctions and economic pressure, but bombs weren't falling on their neighborhoods. Now, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin is trying to downplay it, claiming no serious damages or casualties, but the videos tell a different story: burning cars, damaged buildings, and most importantly, the complete shutdown of air travel in and out of Russia's capital. And let's talk about that Trump ultimatum for a second. 50 days might sound generous, but when you consider that Putin has called this war a historic imperative and shows no signs of backing down, it starts to look more like a countdown to escalation than a path to peace. Russia's already rejecting it, with Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov calling any ultimatums unacceptable. What's fascinating is that both sides are supposedly open to talks. Ukrainian President Zelensky announced they proposed new negotiations for this week, saying the pace of negotiations must be increased. But actions speak louder than words. And right now, the actions involve drones over Moscow and Russian missiles pounding Ukrainian cities. The timing reveals everything. As Trump tries to force a deal with economic threats, Ukraine is demonstrating it can hit Russia where it hurts, not just militarily, but economically and psychologically. Every time those airports shut down, it's a reminder to ordinary Russians that this war isn't just happening over there anymore. Some analysts think Trump's 50-day deadline actually gives Russia more time to press its military advantage. Russian forces are pushing hard in eastern Ukraine, trying to capture strategic cities before any potential ceasefire locks in the current front lines. One Russian lawmaker even posted on Telegram, "Oh, how much can change on the battlefield in 50 days?" But here's the real question. Will economic pressure and drone strikes be enough to bring Putin to the table? History suggests probably not. Putin's demands remain unchanged. He wants Ukraine to give up 4 regions Russia claims but doesn't fully control, abandon its NATO ambitions, and essentially surrender its sovereignty. That's not happening. So we're left with this strange dance. Trump threatens sanctions while shipping weapons. Ukraine talks peace while sending drones. Russia claims everything's under control while its capital's airports shut down night after night. And caught in the middle, millions of people on both sides who just want this to end. The next 50 days, or 49 now, are going to be crucial. Will Trump's ultimatum force a breakthrough, or are we looking at an even deeper escalation come September? Will Ukraine's drone campaign convince ordinary Russians to pressure their government, or will it harden attitudes? And most importantly, can either side accept a deal that doesn't give them everything they want? One thing's certain, those Moscow airports aren't opening normally anytime soon, and every night they stay closed is another reminder that in modern warfare, you don't need to invade a country to bring the fight to its doorstep. You just need a few dozen drones and the will to use them. What do you think? Is this the pressure that finally brings peace, or just another step towards something worse? Write and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.